Hello and welcome to your practice. I am in a very beautiful studio that is primarily used for belly dancing, and I got to take a class the other day, which was so fun, and it got me thinking a lot about my psoas muscles and my hips and pelvis, and really how belly dancing is like the antithesis of how we have, if you have grown up in purity culture and you've been socialized as a woman in purity culture, you've probably had a pretty locked down pelvis. I know after many years of working with women who grew up in purity culture, this is something I have seen. And so I'm leaning more and more lately into classes that have to do with moving our hips and pelvis by design, because I know this audience and I know this community, and I think that this is one of the biggest things that we could use for our bodies. And as always, please feel free to modify or shift or adjust whatever doesn't feel well in your body. I am not a TRE certified person, but I feel like I tend to blend some of those ideas. If you're not familiar with that, it's a kind of psoas release technique. I am not a huge fan of techniques. That's just my personality. I get bored of doing this like rigid ABCD, but I do think that there are ways in which TRE can help us access our psoas and releasing some trauma and stuckness. So that's what I'm going to be inviting us to do today. I'm going to first see if we can come into a place of settling our pelvis and sending some breath down into our pelvic floor. I have a bolster. If you don't have a bolster and you have a pillow or two pillows or three pillows, whatever feels good for you, I'm going to invite us to start in a reclined butterfly posture. So my feet are together, my knees are open. You might need two or more lengthwise. I'm like just shy of needing an extra one. And then I'm going to invite us to lay down here. And if that is too wide and that's uncomfortable, please get more bolsters and more blocks, as many as you need underneath your legs. The point is that your legs are not holding themselves up. Whatever you have underneath you is holding them up. And so I invite you to bring your eyes off of your screen, unless you are really enjoying these beautiful art pieces. Feel free to keep looking at the screen. But wherever you decide to place your eyes, I invite you to place your intention and your attention in your hips and your pelvis. So sometimes I like to make a little triangle out of my thumb and pointer finger, and I place my thumbs right underneath my belly button to make a little upside down triangle in my womb area. This was a practice I learned from one of my teachers, Desi, from sensual somatic movement. And if placing your hands on your belly or your pelvis for whatever reason doesn't feel good, feel free to just have them down by your sides. I like the warmth of my hands, and sometimes I like to apply really gentle pressure, and then the outside of my hand, I sort of like dig in and press out into my pelvic bones on the front, my hip bones, sort of this little like hook right there. That just feels really good for kind of opening up my pelvis. Again, that might not feel good for you, so always modify, do what you need to do. And then I invite you to see if you can send your breath all the way down to the space right underneath your belly button, whether your hands are there or not. Just seeing if you can soften the belly, soften the breath, and then notice if you can soften your pelvic floor as well. Because if we don't soften our pelvic floor, what we tend to do then is just put a lot of pressure on our pelvic floor, which over time can actually lead to incontinence issues because our pelvic floor is bracing when the rest of us is trying to soften. So if the pelvic floor cannot soften and you're just like, I can't do it, I highly, highly recommend seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist that you trust as well to help you learn how to soften those muscles. But maybe today, even if it's 5%, we soften and breathe into our pelvic floor. Noticing if our legs can become a little bit heavier onto the pillows or bolsters or whatever we have with us today. And then leaving the bolster right where it is, I'm actually going to close my legs maybe just like 3 inches. And what I'm inviting, this is a little bit of a like TRE inspired, I'm wanting to start to activate and maybe even fatigue and release my pelvic muscles and my psoas muscles here. So if you start quaking or shaking, lovely, that is part of the process. If you don't, that's okay too. We're just noticing and being where we are. Based on the strength of our pelvic floor and a million other things, that quaking and shaking might happen right away, or it might actually take some time to build up. And if there's any movements, like you can see my tailbone is reaching to the right, if there's any movements that your pelvis does while you're here, let it happen. Try not to control your pelvis from your brain, thinking, oh, I need to hold it in any kind of way. This is really about releasing the pelvic floor to do what the pelvic floor might need to do. And then I'm going to invite my ribs to soften and just notice what happens then. There's a little bit of reverberation through the core. And my jaw also wants to move, which makes sense because we have a very strong anatomical connection between our hips and jaw. So let yourself look weird to feel good. Give yourself permission to look as weird as you can with your face, your hips. And then if and when you're ready, let your legs rest back down onto your bolsters. If you feel like you're not done fatiguing and burning some energy with those muscles, feel free to keep them lifted. And then when you're ready, let them settle back down. And then see if we can again send the breath all the way down into the belly and the pelvic floor here. Good. Now I'm going to go ahead and slide that bolster out. I'm going to roll all the way over as I stick my left leg out. So I'm coming into sort of a one-legged frog. And my right arm is making a little pillow. My left knee is out. And then I'm going to bend my right leg. Maybe your hands reach your foot. Maybe you want to have a strap or something else, a towel, to grab it. Maybe you just want to reach for it and not actually take hold of it today. That's also absolutely okay. If you can reach the foot, I invite you to kick into the hand so there's this lengthening and opening along the front of your body. And then you can keep your left knee bent, or if it feels okay, I invite you to straighten that leg and press the toe mound and the ball of your left foot into the floor. Honestly, this is just a posture I've noticed that my body does innately a lot of times when I'm doing some Indwell movement. So I'm just seeing what happens when we make this a little bit more conscious. And if it doesn't feel good in your body, don't do it. Feel free to change it or come out of it in whatever way you might need to. This is another way for me of kind of accessing and fatiguing some of those muscles. I feel my connection between my foot all the way into my hip, which is good because this is the foot I've broken and the leg that invites me to pay attention to her a lot. And so you can even actively kind of gently move that foot right to left, left to right a little bit, getting some activation through it. Seeing if you can still send the breath all the way down to that pelvic floor. And again, if for any time this doesn't feel good, you can bend that left knee again, come into that one-legged frog if that feels better. And then eventually we all will find our way back into that one-legged frog. extending that lower leg long. This time, this same arm as leg is going to reach forward, and I'm going to come into just like a little like toddler look around, and I'm going to invite my chin to look all the way over my right shoulder if it can. So I feel that really, really deep inside of my left hip. Just noticing what you notice here. Always feeling free to move your jaw however you might need to. And then rolling all the way back over through your back. Maybe just extending those legs long, taking a moment here to breathe. And then eventually, when you're ready, rolling up over to your left side, letting your right leg first come out to that little one-legged frog. And I'm going to rest my head on my left arm, and my right arm is going to reach back towards my left leg. Maybe it touches, maybe it doesn't. And you can also kick into that hand to create a little more resistance. Feel free to keep that right knee bent if that feels better, or you can try to straighten that leg, pressing into the ball of your right foot. Starting to notice that foot to hip connection through your knee. And you can even kind of roll right to left, left to right on that right foot. You can stay static in this stretch or move around a little bit. Really engage it in whatever way feels best for you. There's not really a lot of, method in terms of like A, B, C, D. This is all about finding different ways of engaging and releasing our hips. Some might work well today and they might not work tomorrow. Some might not work well today and they might feel great tomorrow. So always feeling free to explore as many times as you need to. And then I'm going to bend that right knee back into that one-legged frog. Extend that left leg long as my right arm comes all the way down and around. Paying attention to your lower back, only going up as far as feels okay for you. Then I'm going to try to reach my chin all the way over my left shoulder. Breathing in, breathing out. Good. Now I'm going to roll all the way back onto my back, grabbing my bolster again, sliding it under my knees, coming right back to where we started. And then just noticing if or how this may feel different now than when you first did this posture today. And this is intentionally a pretty quick practice today with the hope that you might start to incorporate this movement as you're rolling out of bed, as you're getting off of the floor, that it doesn't always have to be this whole 20, 30, 60-minute practice. But hopefully over time, we start to weave in movements that feel good throughout our day. That being said, if you want to stay here for 60 minutes, if this feels really good for you, please feel free. I encourage you to stay here as long as you need and as long as you're able, as you continue to take really good care of your really good body.